Welcome back to another very special episode of the Film Alchemist podcast, the show where we take the movies we love, break them apart, bust their jingle bells, and find out what gives them their magic. I'm your host, Josh Griffey, joined as always by my just very difficult, nearly impossible to housebreak pet and co-host.
Listen, I don't like water. It's Alex Dandino.
Yeah, guys, today is the very special Christmas episode of the Film Alchemist podcast. This is
Happy Christmas,
Merry
folks.
Christmas, Happy Holidays, all the good stuff, right, guys? This is a special pod, one of our last pods of our best year to date on the podcast. It's been a wonderful year. So we had a Christmas movie picked out. We'll get to it later. We decided we'd let the fans choose. And one of our patrons, Mike Cloud, friend of the show, actually won our stocking stuffer contest, and he chose Gremlins for the Christmas movie. So before we do Gremlins, though, a little business. You thought you forgot, but if Gremlins is about anything, it's about capitalism. So here we go, guys. It's official. The Film Alchemists are on Patreon. That's right, patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Guys, it's the absolute best way to help the show. It's a great gift for anyone you know who loves movies. It's a great gift for yourself. Treat yourself, right? That's what we're here for. Pamper yourself. Finish this year strong. We've all been through a lot. Pamper yourself in the elegant, soft, moist towelette of our voices and just sail into that new year. New year, new pods, all the good stuff, right? So for as little as $1 a month, guys, you get in. You can meet our community, meet all our friends over there that we already have, patrons over there. And as you begin to climb the official Highlander tier ranking system, you can begin to select the specific movies you want to hear in a Patreon exclusive library. We have a lot of great episodes there, a lot of great movies that we're about to cover. Again, on patreon.com/Film Alchemist Pod. Meet our community, hang out with us, get a vote on our fourth movie of every curation. We are trying so hard to keep awesome content flowing over there so that you know that your dollar is well spent. And we do assure you every single dollar is appreciated. So for those of you who help us, thank you. For those of you who are about to, thank you as well. Make sure you go to our YouTube channel because, I mean, if hearing our voices is great, seeing our faces is almost orgasmic. I say almost because literally no one ever has, but I held out hope that they will. The email is filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on, so reach out to us fellow young hip people. We love to hear from you. We're easy to communicate, so that's it for business. All right, Alex, I just got to say, my brother called me the other day, my brother Skyler, wild card of the family, right? And just this text, and I was afraid that I had missed a very important call because he just said, hey, are you cool with me buying your son's hamsters, right, for Christmas? And I immediately ran to my phone. I'm like, it's been 7 minutes. I'm like, he could be 6 hamsters deep by now.
Yeah,
so I'm texting him. I'm like, what kind of sex pervert store were you at? And then you just happened to find hamsters. And how did this happen? Don't do it. I was like, don't fucking buy hamsters, right? Because my sons won carnival fish, right, this year. This was something they did, carnival goldfish. Little do they know how many fish have died in their tank, and we keep replacing that they just think are the same fish.
Wait, do you know the number, though?
I mean, we're probably... I would hate to say it out loud because I don't know if this is going to make me seem... I'll say this. We tried African dwarf frogs. Not hardy little guys. Anywho.
Are the goldfish in the teens at this point?
Not the teens. I mean, that would just be absurd. Like, we're not aquatic Leatherface.
I want a goldfish. Sorry, quick aside. I want a goldfish at Stony Creek Elementary in Noblesville. Yeah. Carnival goldfish, shitty goldfish. My parents named it Larry. I wasn't even allowed to name it.
Just marked for death from that moment.
Larry the goldfish lived for 7 years. Just saying.
I mean, that's what they fucking say. Larry's like the doctor, and he just kept regenerating in your bowl. But no, this is the thing. My point was that the shitty goldfish they won for free on this fucking rigged Carney ping pong ball game. I don't know if you can say Carney anymore. Carnival employee. That turned into 3 free goldfish has turned into several $100s. So many hours of fucking research online to figure out how to not have fish die, how to cure algae, all this shit, right? And I was afraid we're about to do it again with hamsters. And as I watch Gremlins today, I have to say, there are two things that really leap out at you right at the start of this film, right? One is that Mogwais are not a pet, but a curse, right? They're a weapon designed somewhere to punish the world's shittiest dad, which this guy is probably close if he weren't so jovial.
Top 5 at least.
And number 2... Yeah, I don't even know what I'm saying, Alex. I think these pets suck. I don't think pets that have this many rules are something that should titillate you to buy for your son who kind of has a job but still lives at home. His dog is already fucking a criminal dog amongst the neighborhood. I feel like this movie has a subtext, right? Like if the icing on the cake are these really cool Mogwais, this is a cake of sadness. This is a dense, stodgy, Paul Hollywood not approved cake.
Yeah, Paul Hollywood. But this would be the only time in the history of the Great British Bake Off where Paul Hollywood, shit, I can't eat it. Yeah. Like they never insult anyone on that show. You should have thrown that. They never say anything mean. It'd be the only time Paul Hollywood would say, shit. Like mean things to say.
Yeah. So I'll tell you this though. This is a great memory I have of Gremlins, right? When I was a kid, I think I told this story when we did Big Trouble Little China. But I had a not very responsible dad, right? My grandma's gigantic dog, right? Like fucking giant dog. Like 6.5 plus feet when he stood up on his hind legs. Like huge dog named Barney, right? Big country dog. He got out. And I don't know how this happened. I can't even believe this is a thing that this guy was allowed to procreate, and the court said he could be my responsible guardian every other weekend, right? We're driving in the country. He sees the dog running along the side of the road. His fucking theory is he'll open the door, hold me by my fucking pants, and I'll lean out of the car while it's driving, because he was a fat fuck, so he probably didn't want to get out and chase a dog through a fucking field. And that I would reach out and grab Barney, this gigantic fucking German Shepherd something, right? And I would pull him into the car. We'd close the door and we'd drive off to get ice cream, right? This was the scenario as laid out. Right. So he's holding me driving. We're going not very fast, but we're like kind of like cruising down the road. Grabs me, leans me out the car, right? So I lean out, and somehow I don't even know how this fucking worked, right? He like got in front of it, Fast and the Furious style, slowed down. I reached out and I grabbed this fucking dog. In the moment I grabbed his collar, the dog went perpendicular to the road, right? Like a tease design, and ran into the corn. I got thrown out of the car, right? Because my basketball shorts were not sturdy enough and up to code. And just my face bounced off those giant white rock country roads. Like, just massive amounts of head trauma, concussed. I'm very beat up. My dad's doing everything he can to make sure that my mom doesn't find out, and this isn't later used as evidence in court, right? He comes home with every fucking kind of candy and ice cream imaginable. And he rented me tapes. That was his, like, please God. And the 2 tapes he got me were Big Trouble in Little China and Gremlins. And so for the rest of the weekend, I just watched those 2 movies back to back and ate every fucking bit of sugar I can find. And I've always said this, Big Trouble Little China is probably about as formative to my taste as any movie ever. Like, I saw that young and concussed, and, like, that became my... I feel like Gremlins is very much of that ilk. I don't know that I've watched this in a couple years. What did you think going back to this kind of seminal movie of our childhood?
Here's my surprise for the pod.
No.
I have never actually seen Gremlins.
Wait. What? You've never seen Gremlins? Have you seen Gremlins 2?
Nope.
Oh my God, I don't know how to take
I know. This was actually really exciting, and I'm glad someone picked Gremlins. So Gremlins is a movie.
This is so weird because we somehow started this pod just spilling tea. We're just fucking pouring like British people are weeping at the amount of tea we're spilling. So, in America, this much tea has not been spilt since that Boston Revolution. You have never This
everybody
is a personal
has
confession episode.
I know, and everyone's got those like blind spots in their movie in their movie iconography or however.
This
you want
just
to put
felt
it.
like one of those. Everyone our age had it.
I agree, and it's one of those things, and it's weird. And I think what I've seen is the first I've seen the opener. I've never seen past. I've never seen past the shop.
All you saw was the chubby Blade Runner opening.
all I saw was chubby Blade Runner with like the noir thing. And like it's a weird and I don't know why. Like I could not tell you why.
That is awesome, dude.
Like my parents didn't give a shit. Like they were not like my parents like didn't want me to watch rated R movies, but like they would not have cared about Gremlins. Granted, they weren't going to go rent it for me because I probably wasn't going to like leap out for it. But at the same time, I just never. Just one of those movies. Like, look, I'll tell you right now, I've never read To Kill a Mockingbird. I wasn't forced to in school because, quite frankly, I didn't want to, and I was like, I got all the way through high school.
Yeah. Most things with lawyers aren't super important.
But like it's one of those things like it's one of those things like it's weird when you tell people you haven't seen or read certain things, people are like, what? That's crazy. And it's just like I don't know.
I agree with you on this. People say that about like wild shit, like, you haven't seen Fast and the Furious 4? And it's like,
oh yeah, those people are full of shit.
Like when people like, oh, you didn't see that fucking art house flick that had 12 screen release in 1932? Yeah. Like, oh, yeah, sorry, fucking dick mouth. But I feel like
people always want to get into it over, like, Plan 9 from outer space.
Yeah, but, like, imagine meeting someone who hadn't seen... Like, honest to God, I would put Gremlins there in my mind with, like, your Jaws...
Jurassic Park, yeah, absolutely.
I guess it's weird because the movies that were so formative to you as a child, I think you just assume everyone had...
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is awesome, though. So you and my son, Logan, who's 4, you both saw this for the first time this week. So I'm that father, too. I don't know if it was great to show a 4-year-old.
So thank you, Papa.
Yeah, thank you, Cloud. Oh, Papa Noel, thank you.
Thank you, Papa Cloud. Oh, Papa Jojo.
Papa Noel, Cloud. This is great. So this is blowing around.
Very fresh.
Granted, again, we're just doing wild personal stories. We haven't even talked about the movie yet. This is a fucking treat. So instead, I thought we were going to do all the old Gremlins, like, oh, what about the fucking time zones? All the yucks. This is a totally new universe opened upon you. We're getting fresh shit today.
Yeah.
Steaming hot. Pucky. Brand new, untouched. Well, okay, so what are your thoughts? Like totality, like a summary. How did you feel about this movie in 2021?
I'm honestly really glad I saw it as an adult. I think as a kid, it might have been lost on me a little bit. Like I probably wouldn't have been as into it because like when I was younger, I'm not sure as a kid, like it just wasn't a thing that I was going to go after. So seeing it as an adult and like with my kid too, which was really interesting, he was like glued to the screen. Like he has this, there's a movie he like always wants to watch on my phone, which is this Mickey Mouse Christmas movie. And he literally put it down to watch Gremlins, which was awesome.
Your boy became a man today.
So, I thought it was it's weird. Like it's a really strange sort of morality tale in a lot of ways, sort of a parable of sorts.
Yes. Now, this is the thing, to your point, right? This is the movie when we were kids. I was telling my kids, I was like, this might scare you because they love watching Gremlins 2. And Gremlins 2 is the full-throated embrace of the Gremlins as Looney Tune characters, right? And I knew Gremlins 1 was a little grittier, right? It had been a little while since I've seen it. But these aren't Looney Tunes characters. These are essentially every kind of criminal, including like sexual deviance you could imagine, but played with cartoonish sound effects behind, right? And so I was like, all right, prepare. This is not like, the fucking Bugs Bunny version of Gremlins. This is the real shit. I had forgotten there is a level of subtext that was so lost on me almost my entire life. I didn't realize this was an economic anxiety takedown of capitalist Christmas absorbing America. There's weird like Reagan era politics that are jumping in. The ugly head of racism from the generations that have gone through wars. There's a lot of heavy adult shit happening in the movie that I remember for the orange juice machine and the fucking, flasher gremlin. This is a fucking sad American, like this is a broken Americana film, right?
It's deceptive. It's a really fascinating, it's this really weird sort of like, look at it's this weird look at like It's a Wonderful Life, like how messed up Like this is like George. Like this is like if George Bailey.
You could say this is the town. This is Pottersville, right? Like when Potter won. This is what that town looks like without all the cool brothels and shit.
Yeah.
Like this is Pottersville. The Gremlins, I guess, are the prostitutes that storm in to Bedford Falls later. That's like, I guess, where this movie is. This is, I mean, yeah. All right, go ahead.
What I think this is why, like, because for me, the movie starts so differently than the actual movie itself. Like the movie begins like Big Trouble in Little China. And I was like, are we doing a Big Trouble in Little China thing? Like, again,
not even that. It's just straight up noir. Like, everyone's got a tale to tell.
Everyone's got a tale.
No one's
My name's Randall. Randall Peltzer. I'm an adventurer of sorts. Yeah. Like this.
And you're just like, wow, that detective is like way more drinking into than where we start most of these movies.
Yeah. Well, that was like, I was like, I feel like we're. I was like, did I miss a beat? Did I miss something? Like, from the very beginning, I was like, I feel like I've missed a whole, like, half of this movie.
Yes.
And
he even does the like in Chinatown.
Yeah. So but like, and again, I'm just like Randall Peltzer's easily the worst father, like top 5 worst parent. I was just like, who goes to Chinatown?
Okay. Well, let's pause this because first, he's doing a lot of traveling and almost no selling, right? And this isn't traveling for like a job; it's for his tinkers, right? His tinkerings that he's doing. Yeah. Doesn't even take the time to have like a working prototype before he hits the road. So this is a man who desperately wants to not be with his family, including at Christmas when he drops a biological weapon in their lap. Neither here nor there. I think the argument will be from some people is like, but he seemed like a nice guy. His family liked him. And I was like, I think he's like the bro, right? He's not really a husband. He's not really a father. He's like the quirky friend that like also just lives in your garage every now and again, right? But yeah, he's shitty in that way. He's not like, I mean, I guess I would argue he's actually fairly abusive, like straight up abusive. Yes, I think we can both agree like he's not a very ideal father, right? But I think you would give him a small pass, right, as to, of course he wants to flee this town. Because the way they lay out this town in the movie is baffling. And I love it because in part 2, the Trump-like character literally buys a picture of the town because he's like, that's what people want. That's the America people want. And if you watch that movie without having watched Gremlins 1 in a long time, you're like, yeah. Like, I remember the images of kids playing in the snowy, tree lot. Everything else after that opening is fucking horrible. So you have Cruella de Potter stomping around. And this lady's hobby is to come into the bank, cut the line, and tell this guy she's going to microwave his dog. Like, that's the world we're living in and this is, okay, now this is a good visual storytelling thing. These people are so fucking afraid of this sack of shit lady, Mrs. Deagle, that multiple times in the movie she cuts the line and not one surly middle-aged worker who's had too much guff gives her shit about cutting the line. They just let this offense happen multiple times. Insanity.
And I mean, not only that, she's shitty to everyone in town. Like, she's like Potter's wife.
Well, so her intro is telling this family who are about to be evicted for Christmas that they should ask Santa for rent. And as she goes into the store, this is just a little extra fuck you to her. The kids turn around, right, and like they're right in camera. And they just go, "We're hungry, Mommy." And she goes, "Me too." And then we go inside to start threatening dog murder us. This might be the most fucking low blows to start a movie for any character in the history of filmmaking. She just straight up sucks. The funny thing this movie always does is they pair her with fucking Peltzer, who fucking ties his dog up under his desk at work. And you're like, you know what? You suck too. And I think in 2021, it's especially important to realize that he sucks. Because we have this flood of human beings that think that their dog is so important that it must be everywhere they are. And it's a fucking curse upon the land, right? My dog needs to sit where the humans sit on a plane. It doesn't matter if you have allergies or the dog's noisy or nips. Fuck you. It's my dog. It's important. Right? If I go to a restaurant, my dog needs to be sitting with me at the restaurant. It doesn't matter if while you take a bite into your double cheeseburger, my dog takes a steaming hot shit. So your nose will be filled with the buffet of fecal as you bite into your dinner. That's not my problem. My dog can't live in an apartment because he's important. And so through the context of that, you look back and you go, you know what? Maybe the entire Peltzer family got what they had coming.
I gotta be honest. It's very interesting you say that, because the beginning of this movie, like, he's in the shop and he's like, oh, I gotta have that for my kid. And I'm like, why would you be buying first off,
yeah,
this is something.
Well, also when he says that you don't anticipate his kid being 37 years old. Right? Like,
yeah, honestly,
I don't know how old Peltzer is, but you're like, he's way older than Daddy's bringing you home a fuzzball.
I got to get it for my kid. I'm like, okay, cool, that's nice. He's bringing it home for his like plucky 10-year-old child. No, this is a full-blown 17-year-old who's
whatever age Feldman is in this movie. That kid can get a fuzzball for Christmas.
That kid should get the Mogwai, and not the older kid who's just beating his meat to Phoebe Cates the entire time. So this is like the thing that was like shocking to me as an adult watching this movie is absolutely no one.
I just like the idea that he can't get his own dong wet after midnight, like his little masturbation like parallel nightmare journey, right? His own little pant gremlin. I just have all these images of him like, no lube tonight. It's 12:01, and like little tiny dicks shooting off of his dick. Oh my God, is this just a masturbation movie along with social anxiety? Or economic anxiety? Oh my God. Yeah.
But the thing that was still like, and I don't know if this is something that anyone's ever, I'm sure this has been addressed several times, is that no one seems to be alarmed by a Mogwai. Like, no one thinks anything of it. It's just a normal house. It's just a normal thing that people would, like, it's a rare thing in a shop in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And you bring it to Kingston Falls, USA, and it's like, it's a Mogwai, of course. Duh. What are you, dumb? You wouldn't know what a Mogwai is?
Yeah, well, there is definitely a okay, so we got it. We're gonna break down the like, what the fuck are these gremlins totally?
What is that? Right.
My theory is this is part of their biological weaponry. Because again, imagine if anyone came to you and said, we all watch every fucking Planet Earth and Nature Show because we have these really, that's what they show in, Best Buy when I buy the TV. So like, I got to watch nature shows and make sure I still got the technology, right? Like I love nature. Imagine if after all that shit you'd seen, someone just showed up and was like, here's the thing you've never fucking seen. And it's got magical powers and it's carnivorous and can multiply. All the shit, right? Take all that away. Imagine they just showed you this little thing. And the fact that, literally no one is stunned. Like even Corey Feldman, who's a child, just goes, rad. I think that's a defense mechanism of the gremlin. And I also think it's a fucking takedown of, I think clearly it's a takedown of, kind of like the white appropriators. They just go in and they're like, hey, this might be cool. This could be the Pelt's a pet, whatever. Here's $200. And they just run out without like learning the respect of the gift of nature.
I think along with the undercurrent of anti-capitalism, there is a huge like sentiment of like, man, white people just take it for granted, all of this.
But see, now that's the weird thing, right? Because this is Main Street America, right? This is the shit this is the town that politicians always talk about without ever actually wanting to help. This movie is the exact fucking America they're always trying to sell us, right? And the whole movie is talking about how hard it is to live in these towns, right? The factory closed, people are getting laid off. Dick Miller's just kind of, as amazing as he is, he's kind of like this borderline, like, he's getting a little more racist, a little more prickly as he ages.
Just a touch. Like, it is like, it starts that way. You're like, okay, cool. So you're willing to drive around a tractor and you hate foreign cars.
Right. Well, you're like, if that was a guy that like actually lived in your town, he would be not talking about cars, but humans in that snowplow, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's
no, this is like for sure the guy who uses the N-word in earnest and like, it's like super uncomfortable.
Yeah. I don't say this word lightly, but and then everyone's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Futterman had another beer. Jesus H.
Oh, great. Futterman got drunk at the bar again.
Here we go again. No, but that's but the town it's strangely saying feel sorry for this town, while also saying that all these people suck and are irresponsible. In the last scene of the movie, they fucking run in, and it's just the Asian shop owner who's been wronged by not only this fucking appropriating white huckster, but his own fucking bloodline. And he comes in and just fucking admonishes our entire culture, our entire country. You guys fucking do what you always do. You don't respect nature. You destroy everything you touch. You suck. And I was like, is he fucking John Wick dismantling the hero family of our movie? And he just comes in, and I think his last line is, hey, when you're ready, the Mogwai will still be here, you dirty fucks. Like, if you go extinct before, us and the Mogwai will be here. You guys suck. He walks in and sees the destruction of an entire Midwestern town on the TV. And his exact question is, you let a Mogwai watch TV? You sick bastards. And it's like, what? Yeah.
It's a very, like, it actually reminds me of that joke we always tell about how, like, aliens have definitely been here, and then be like, oh, fuck this is already fucked up. We'll come when it's way less fucked up. Or when they've killed each other, you know?
We're like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre house of the galaxy, where they're just like, Jesus Christ, don't go over there.
These are the aliens that, like, miss their train, and they, like, have to stay. Like, that's...
There is... Okay, we'll get to them. I still want to do a little more, because I find this movie really funny in that it is, and it's kind of one of those things a lot of horror movies do, right? Where they try to make you sympathize with, like, maybe a character or a family so that we don't want them to get hurt, but then everyone else who gets killed, right? Like, when I was a screenwriter on that TV show 1,000 Ways to Die, right? We had a rule, right? Like, and the producer explained it to me as this on my first day. He's like, no one wants to read a story or watch a comedy segment about a hardworking single mom who raises 3 kids, gives them a nutritious meal, make sure their clothes are laundered right, gets them to soccer practice on time, and then, an asteroid fucking explodes her head.
Right.
Like, that's not a segment people want. So you're like, that sucks. That lady was a good person. So it got so bad that at a point they're like, you can't do frat boys anymore. Like, you have to kill other people besides frat guys. Because that's just easy, right? Like, those guys suck. We'll fucking kill them for a whole season. Anywho, this movie kind of does the opposite, where almost every character to a fault, except for maybe Futterman's wife and maybe Mrs. Peltzer, because you just feel really bad for her.
Yeah, I'd say Mrs. Peltzer.
I mean, I guess only the women in the movie, except for Mrs. Deagle. But almost
Mrs.
everyone
Peltzer
else.
And Phoebe Cates are the only people in this movie that I'm like, those guys, those are tried and trues.
Exactly. Like, even our main guy, right? Little Richie Peltzer, or whatever his name is, the boy who would get the fuzzball for Christmas.
Billy.
Yeah, little Billy Putzer, who's probably old enough to be looking for, like, supplement pills for his night gremlining, right? That's how old he is in this movie.
Well, he's, like, going to bars and stuff like that with Judge Reinhold, like, living his best life.
He's already chain smoking because he's got a 9-to-5. You can't buy him a fucking pet for Christmas. Like, come on. But not only that, so that's who we're rooting for, right? And then they try to do the thing that, like, he's paying for the house because his dad's a fucking derelict, right? Okay, so that's relatable. But then his dad gives him, like, 3 simple rules. I mean, okay, first off, that's another thing I'll take umbrage with. They're not simple rules at all. But, like, why did you put the Mogwai on your fucking comic booking table where you keep your giant cup of water, not in a cup holder? That's a base level of irresponsibility that a man of 52, no, I'm just going to keep saying he's older, should not have. That's fucking insane.
Yeah, a 60-year-old man should know not to just keep water.
This guy takes off his CPAP mask and just sprinkles the moisture on these mugs. No, that's what I'm saying. I don't understand. Are we supposed to root for this guy? It's the weird time where I was like, was Mrs. Deagle a little bit right? Right?
Well, you know what's interesting? You're supposed to. Well, like, you're supposed to root for him. Like, accidents, you're like, well, that's
They're
stupid.
wide-eyed dreamers, which normally you love.
When he takes the Mogwai to school and they experiment on it, that's where I'm like, dude, not cool.
Not cool.
That was the one where I'm like, okay, now I don't have any sympathy for Billy.
Like, he's literally just slinging them like, I've got one to spare. And I was like, oh my God. And then his dad sees the miracle. Okay, let's just do this now. Let's get into this a little bit now. These fucking gremlins. So I always thought of them as, because I told my kids, I'm like, they're a little scary maybe to you, right? But my kids are in this phase where they're really testing it, right? Because they know that I only watch horror movies. So like I was doing my like exercise or whatever and watching the, documentary on Pinhead, right, as a character.
Right.
And Hunter's like trying to peek down to like, I'm not afraid of the Pinhead documentary. I'm like, you fucking will be. Like, I promise you fucking will be. If you try to watch Hellraiser, you're going to be a broken thing. Don't do that at 7 years old. Or 6 years old. That's what, he's still 6. But he's like pushing it, right? So I was like, don't watch, like Gremlins, if it's scary, we'll turn it off and we'll go play upstairs. And he's like, I won't be scared. But like, I could see him like getting a little like, damn, they're like, why is mom carrying knives around the house, right? Like there's images that they're like, I don't know about this. Something about this is wrong.
Right.
And they're not the cartoon characters I remember, right? So let's talk about what these things are, right? Is one, like you said, they have the amazing ability to be unremarkable to everyone who sees them, which is insane.
It's got to be a
also, Jesus.
Thing. I think you're
I
right.
hope fucking Grogu is just paying residuals to Gizmo. For sure. But neither here nor there. So that's their main ability, right? One, they're put in a store that only fucking white people would shop in, right?
Right.
And they're allowed to sing in a beautifully decorated box, which will definitely draw the attention of white people who will then take them to white places, right? So that feels exactly like this guy smuggled a biological weapon into small town America by any other means.
There is this kind of interesting thing while I was watching it.
Why is their hobby siren song? Right? Like, what are we doing?
Through the lens. Yeah, because through the lens, this is basically like a Harryhausen, like Jason and the Argonauts beat.
Yeah.
But like, it is this sort of like thing.
Every guy with a wad of cash and asthma, the Mogwai's like, oh, right? Come on. You know what you're doing.
I thought a lot about that, like, because we're talking about like these are basically like sirens for whites, And I was thinking about it. I'm like, this is really like, is this movie about like, if we're taking like that they're aliens who like got accidentally stranded or something like that? They are like, in that case, they're like, well, while we're here, let's just thin the herd a little bit here, and like, there's way too many of these types, so let's just get rid of a bunch of them right now.
It's hard too because I don't know if they're aliens. I kind of think of them as like, you remember in Godzilla King of Monsters where essentially in the new Godzilla American trilogy, they go to this really weird place where the kaijus are the antibodies of the earth and that perhaps we're the thing that they need to cleanse. Right? And it's like, yeah, I mean, it's like a very less elegant way that like the Matrix described it, right? But they're just like, yeah, that's why Godzilla makes blue fire. Right? Okay. That's kind of what these things feel like because it feels very mystical to me. But again, this could be like a Killer Clowns thing, right? Because so what we know about them is they have these rules that are fucking impossible for any fucking human family to follow, right? Unless you became a full-on jailer, right? Like if you treat these things as pet and are emotionally bonded to them.
Unless you are actually paying attention to the Mogwai-ness. And that might, again, be another defense mechanism. Because, again, as unremarkable as everyone finds these things, the rules seem like they'd be very important.
But also impossible to fucking... Like, they even make fun of this in part 2, where the guy's like, what if you eat a sandwich at 10, and you forget to floss, and a piece of sandwich comes loose at, like, 12:30? You didn't eat it at 12... Like, it's really fucking funny. Because, like, we all did the thing. Like, when I saw this at ArcLight, like, I got in line, I was going to ask, like, what about time zones? And, like, in part 2, they address all this shit, right? But I'm sure everyone has a snarky shit. And the other thing, too, right? Like, when they fucking... Why did you sell this? Or why do these things exist in New York City where there's snow? Guess what snow is? Water. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, when Spike or Stripe jumps out of that thing, there's going to be fucking a million Mogwai. He doesn't even need the fucking pool. The whole town is his pool now. But this is what I mean. So, go to a human house where humans have to subside on water. We have so many access points to water in our whole house. What if you sneeze on a Mogwai, right? These things are specifically designed, like even normal house lights are too bright for them. So they are specifically designed to where we cannot follow the rules.
Right.
And then they are sold to the people that are the least responsible and capable of following the rules. Right. That is a fucking predatory design, right? It reminds me of those fish that hang out on the bottom of the ocean. And they're like, hey, this little dong on top of my head is a light. Don't you want light in your cold, dark existence? And a fish comes in, it's like, Rawr.
Well, like Mr. Wing's grandson, this goes back to the grandson,
dude,
who sells the Mogwai. So he goes.
Do you
behind
think
his
he's a sleeper
back.
agent? Do you think Grandpa just
sure.
happened to fucking saunter off and was like, "Oh, don't take that Mogwai behind my back"?
No doubt in my mind.
Yeah,
100%.
This young guy, this young kid was like, "We need the money."
Yeah.
Just appealing to that guy. The fucking loser from the town with the world's worst invention who loves the thought of slapping that $200 down when we find out his kid's paying all the bills. Come on.
I also think there's a possibility that him and his grandfather are like the Mogwai whisperers. So they're like totally okay with them multiplying. Right.
But this gets to the end, right? That guy was not sad that there was a whole town that almost got murdered. I mean,
not at all.
At the end of this movie, if they said there were 200 dead bodies in this town, I wouldn't be shocked based on the bedlam we saw. And he's not mad about that at all because he knows.
I think Mr. Wing would be like death to colonizers and the movie would end. That would be...
That's what you think?
I mean, come on. You're not wrong. This is the perfect biological
weapon. You're saying just
weapon.
because that he lives in the sub-basement of the world's most fucking giant, overcrowded city that he has a vendetta against us?
Well, like, think about it this way, though. Like,
I think that's a fucking ruse. That's a setup.
It's a total setup, but it's also a perfect biological weapon. Like, think about the most responsibility you need is to like care for these things and basically make sure that they, eat their dinner on time and don't do anything else.
If you treat these things as anything other than prisoners, you cannot have them. If you literally kept them in like a cement cell, a darkened cement cellar, right, you could potentially, and if you IV fed them at specific times, you could possibly have a Mogwai. Anything other than that, it's fucking impossible.
Now, the assumption is that Stripe chewed through the clock, right?
Yes. Now, this is going to get to... I'm laying out an entire biological profile, right? So, one, we know that they can, with water, a very minute amount of water, they can spontaneously reproduce into fully sentient, conscious beings, the same as their creator, within minutes, right? If they eat after midnight, they can mutate into these large predatory killing machines, right? Right. They also can survive electricity, all these insane brute traumas.
And they know that it can happen to them. Like, they're fully aware of this.
They are genetically driven to make it happen. They're
genetically engineered to do this.
So they chew the clock, right? And then they go nuts in that, yeah, because they know that the lazy white owner is going to be like, yeah. Like, he just walks down to the kitchen and gets... This is how lazy the Pelters are. They didn't even put saran wrap over their fucking fried chicken, you monsters. And so, when he's in the kitchen, he didn't even think to, like, double-check the time. Because he's like, I got 20 minutes. That's fine. What if they don't eat like little fucking monsters? What if, like, that fucking close-up of eating is disgusting. But what if they eat slow? Like, he didn't even waste any time to stop and, like, double-check, like, the oven clock or the microwave clock, whatever. Anywho. So this is some other scary things. These things that have been alive for maybe a day, 2 days max, understand our technology well enough to know that if they chew through the clock, they can pull their elaborate ruse on this fucking idiot. That's scary. Think about the things they see in this town. They know the mechanical apparatus underneath a car. They rewire streetlights.
Mrs. Daigle's little chair worked.
Electrical engineering.
Really
that's a mark on the side of Alien, honestly.
Yeah, I agree.
I guess I never thought about where they came from. Here's my biggest question with the Mogwais, right? What is Gizmo?
I think actually that Gizmo is. I think Gizmo's the original. Obviously.
Okay,
But
now here's
Gizmo
my
might
question about that, because is Gizmo foisting this upon people, or is he cursed by this?
I think Gizmo is the only one of. I think Gizmo's the only one like it, and this is the curse. It's like I thought a little bit about because the word Mogwai is Cantonese for devil. I read that on Wikipedia. So
And Gizmo
I thought
is the devil you love.
so.
Right?
I thought a little bit about that, and I was like, so it's kind of like, remember, in Lovecraft Country, the fox legend, the woman who would become like the giant fox, like that kind of thing. Is like, okay, so maybe it's sort of in that vein where it's like it is just this. It is the devil you love.
But this is what I mean, because the
It's
devil
this devil
was
that
the
you love. It's the devil
right?
you keep.
Lucifer was the number one angel, the most beautiful, the most perfect, whatever. Does it make sense that Gizmo was invented specifically to cull us? But this is the thing. In part two, they totally erase this, right? Like he is now like our merchandisable, lovable figurine.
Right.
In this one, does it not seem like maybe Gizmo, when he's put on the table with the water, would be like, "Oh God, water! Like don't get me near that."
Gizmo's got some Audrey 2 vibes, in my opinion.
Well, here's the other thing: we see the other Gremlins torturing Gizmo. We see that they're pretty efficient killers. They don't ever actually hurt Gizmo. No. I think this might be an S&M show, dude. Maybe Gizmo knows the safe word. Mogwai, right? Billy's the safe word. Like when he's on that dartboard, they couldn't hit him with a fucking dart. They didn't actually want to like rip up the innocent, cute vegan who won't join the party. No, because he's like, safe word, Billy.
Their accuracy's not great. Their electrical engineering skills are great, but they're like stormtroopers when it comes to that.
They were good enough to catch him and tie him up to that board. Also, here's the thing:
but like
when Gizmo sees the giant cocoons, he's not like, "Hey, man, I'm gonna fucking get out of here." Like, I'm gonna run away because you guys,
scared.
you guys don't walk it because he's not scared.
He's the original. He's not scared.
He's not scared because he wants this to happen.
Right. It's an Audrey 2 thing.
He's the pretty face that lures you in. I think Gizmo is fucking in on this ruse.
Oh, I think so too. But they're clearly not. I do want to speak. They're not like they're not accurate. They're not accurate throwers. That battle in the kitchen with Mrs. Peltzer, like she literally took two of them out with no like. With
they wouldn't win the World Dart Championship, but with enough throws,
certainly not.
They're not going
to be extras in Hawkeye
little midsection. They're going to hit something. I won't win the World Dart Championship. If you give me 20 darts, I bet I can hit near the middle. I can hit a Gizmo-sized bullseye. I think Gizmo's in on it. I think perhaps what the Mogwai feeds on is the misery of the masses. That's what I think. I think maybe somewhere that the Mogwai is a cursed creature that fucking brings in the soul and misery of people who are doing wrong.
Well, then that's good. Like that is like okay. So the Mogwai is attracted, or the people are attracted to a Mogwai because they are like, Randall is clearly a fuck up. He's the only one we hear
with the singing voice. Why is he the only one who doesn't want to eat after midnight? He is conscientious. He's the only one who's conscientious enough. I definitely butchered that word. I'm sorry. Put that on a dartboard and I stake it. He is the only one who doesn't want to eat after midnight. So he's fighting the biological imperative that is built into all of the subsequent clones or replicants, whatever they may be.
Yeah. Replicants.
I don't know. And at the end, yes, he sacrifices Spike. But is that just because they have harvested all they can and he needs to get out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I think that they're like, that's the end of that. Because I think what it is he sees another alpha in Stripe, so he's like, all right, fuck this.
He's like, I will smote you. Yeah, like God saw Lucifer, and he's like, this bitch. He's like, this dude's talking to my choirs behind my back.
Exactly.
Hell. Yeah.
I know. Okay, we spend a lot of time talking about like what there's one thing, and I had again. This is like it's Joe Dante, and I had no idea this was coming.
Chris Columbus written another
Chris
holiday,
Columbus written,
like the king of Christmas. Chris Columbus.
Chris Columbus written, Joe Dante directed. I did not see the Phoebe Cates dad story coming about why she hates Christmas.
Dude,
holy shit.
You know what's hilarious? In part 2, they do that joke like 4 times where she's like, I remember that Christmas. And he's always like, hey, things are going on. We don't have time for this right now. I was like, there to go. That is one of the fucking weirdest moments in the history of not only Christmas movies, but just movies.
I'm just going to tell you, it comes out of nowhere, and I'm like, whoa, what a bomb to drop in the middle of this thing.
In the middle of the Gremlins just raging. Like, this is a woman who's so fucking mentally disturbed by the events of her childhood that she decides to keep slinging beer to Gremlins. That's how fucked up she is, right? She's just like, another day, another dollar. Just kidding, I'm not even making dollars. That's how bad it is for Phoebe Cates. She stops the movie dead to go, I remember Christmas. I remember the smell. What? The firefighters ripped their chimney apart. Her fucking dad dressed as Santa Claus because he wanted to come down the chimney and surprise her. Which is fucking horrifying and creepy in many ways. Neither here nor there.
Terrible idea.
Slips and breaks his fucking neck. And his fucking corpse
neck.
Just sits there and freezes and rots on Christmas.
I mean, what a thing to hang on a scoreboard for this movie. It was.
But also, not to play therapist, I think Phoebe Cates is mad at the wrong person. I don't think this is Christmas's fault.
Yeah, Phoebe Cates is definitely like, you're pulling like a Jack Skellington. Yeah. You're blaming the wrong person.
Yeah. When some dumbass in the, like southern nowheres is like, some guy tried to build a rocket and he blew himself up. I'm not mad at rocket science as a whole. Right? Like, that guy was going too hard. Your dad was going too hard. Leave Christmas out of it.
And to be honest with you, I'm not mad that guy blew himself up. Having said all that, it's still tragic.
Are you saying Phoebe Cates' dad deserved it? Because he went the extra mile?
Absolutely. 1,000%.
You're saying Phoebe Cates' dad is like the guy who blows himself up making a gender reveal bomb, and you're like, I don't feel that bad.
Absolutely.
Because
Nailed
of the
it
18 forest fires.
There it is right there. Phoebe Cates' dad.
You know the best part of that scene, though, is watching Gizmo, who we've now discovered is this fucking human soul-eating monster, reacting in terror and being like, not that soul. That's too dark. That's too much sadness even for the... Like, you'll choke a Mogwai if I eat the sadness of Phoebe Cates' backstory. Like, Gizmo in that bag is just...
Yeah, the look on... Yeah, forget it.
Yeah, but just on a movie level, right, to bring some of this back, the fucking design of these creatures is fucking stunning. The creature and puppet work in this is fucking unbelievable. I forgot how really good it is.
I mean,
what a stunner.
And when
that scene, like, even of all the Gremlins walking down the street, like, I just got goosebumps. I was like, oh my God. You remember seeing this for the first time concussed on a floor at my grandma's house? Jesus Christ, what a movie.
This is one of those things where it's like, I rarely say this about movies when it comes to this kind of thing, but this is one of those movies where you watch and you're just like, they just don't make them like that anymore, man.
No, they literally don't.
That is impressive work. Like, you just look and you're like, the sheer, like, again, like, force of will to make a movie like this. And then for like the creature work is just, it's just next level, man.
Well, just imagine the first scene with Mrs. Peltzer. She juices one, stabs one, and blows one up in the microwave. And you're like, oh my God, we're going for it. And then it's just like, then we go to the bar.
Then it's just mayhem.
Movie theater.
That kitchen scene, when she throws the one in the juicer, I was physically ill. I'm like, that is the grossest thing I've ever seen. And those things aren't even real. I was like, this is gross.
Well, that was my thing to my kids to get them to not be upset. I was like, oh, they're like plants. They're little plants. Don't worry about it. That's just like when we make juice, right? When we're trying to lose weight. No big deal. Don't worry about it. Fucking wonderful.
Also, how bad at making a juicer are you? Good Lord. Oh, it's a juicer and peeler. Sorry.
Yeah, don't even put a lid on it. It's fine. My 37-year-old kid who can't even follow the 3 rules won't chop his fingies
My
off.
37-year-old bank teller child who pays all the bills will take
My
care of it.
62-year-old broken down CPAP-fueled son won't notice. But it is wonder. Like, I forgot how stunning the creatures were in this, right? That scene in the bar is just, they're doing so many different gags, and the Mrs. Deagle is still one of my favorite kills ever in a film.
Oh, by far. It's so good, dude.
Every time I see it, it's so funny because I was watching it and just dying laughing. I was like, I fucking love this moment. It is kind of everything I love about movies in one moment. And my son looks over Hunter and he goes, "That's not funny, Dad. She's not going to be okay." And I was like, yeah, maybe not. Oh, man. And I was like, oh, shit. But it is that the barbarity of these creatures is crazy. Because I think that they got so Looney Tunes that stains our mind, right? Like, even Gizmo in this one is kind of like a little ugly at the edges. And by part 2, he's like a full-on, like, adorable creature, right? Like a Grogu.
Right.
Who definitely copied Gizmo. Yeah, and you forget, but, like, in this one, they're fucking shooting guns. They're throwing glasses. They're getting chopped up in juicers. That last scene, we have a chainsaw. He's throwing saw blades at Bill. I mean, he fucking pulls out a gun. He stops and sees a gun. Like, this is an intense amount of violence they're doing, right? This isn't really the cartoonish violence I remembered. I don't know. I was kind of stunned by that. Even running the fucking snowplow through the Futterman's house.
I mean, the whole thing is just like, yeah, I mean, it's savagery. Like, I think this is like the crazy thing.
It's weird because I saw this as a kid, and I remember this as like a fun cartoon.
Yeah,
this is monstrous behavior.
This is kind of one of those things, like, seeing it as an adult and having heard the stories and like talk to you about it and that kind of thing. Like, it is a weird thing to realize, like, this was a movie that like everyone saw when they were much younger and like had a huge impression on them. And then you see
our
it as an
parents would
adult.
press play and leave the room like they're gonna watch that family Christmas movie,
and that was it. And I'm like, is it because
this
it
is
says
a question?
Steven
Besides,
Spielberg
It's a Wonderful Life, right? Yeah. Besides, It's a Wonderful Life. Is this like the first kind of holiday horror version, like the really great one? I guess A Christmas Carol is a horror story, but.
You know, I did a little bit of research, and actually, like, this is so this came out in 1984. And
we'd already had like some Black Christmas and stuff like that.
So, well, not only that though, but like the concept of like injecting horror and comedy into the same universe, like in this some of the reading I was doing, this professor cited Ghostbusters, which was released the same weekend as Gremlins, apparently, as being like.
Could you imagine?
No, I can't.
What a great weekend!
Like, can you imagine?
But not even that like horror and comedy,
not having a problem with it.
Imagine the time when we got there. Like, I know Black Christmas did it. There's Silent Night, Deadly Night. Mm-hmm. Those feel smaller than this. Like, this was aimed at a wide audience. Just saying, like,
no,
Christmas, let's inject murder and mayhem into that.
This is aimed for children. Like, this is for sure for kids. Like, it feels like that.
This is the movie you show people when you say, this is what I was raised on. You guys are not watching the same kind of shit we were when we were kids.
Well, I don't know. There's another thing. I don't know if you read this too, but Steven Spielberg, I think, petitioned the MPAA because I think they gave the movie an R rating originally. And I
that
think
wouldn't be surprising.
I think this movie and Temple of Doom were petitioned by Spielberg and got, like, they created the PG-13 for this and Temple of Doom.
The fucking MPAA, the Gremlins of the movie industry.
Those are the true Gremlins. But, like, at the same time, like, what's interesting is, like, what we're talking about right now, you realize that and, like, creating a rating for this makes total sense, because if this was rated R, no one would see it. And if this was rated PG, parents would be fucking furious. But, like, it sits perfectly in the middle for, like, our generation to come back to and, like, be like, oh, that shit was hilarious. Also gross as hell. Also, holy shit. Like, this is like a perfect
Right.
like murder of a town.
But that's exactly what
this,
I was saying. If you look at this movie and Big Trouble Little China, I was like, you could check every single box of like the things that are like my kind of aesthetic and taste. This is those two movies are the charcuterie board of everything I want when I sample a movie. Right? Is in those two movies.
I mean, again, it's just I think this is the kind of thing, and this is probably the movie that Joe Dante, in my opinion, is best known for.
Oh yeah,
and
I think it's my favorite of his movies for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is probably the one he's best known for, and probably in all likelihood, I think kind of probably his best movie. Like, I love The Howling, but I also think Gremlins. I think having seen it now, Gremlins is incredible.
Way better.
It's incredible.
I like The Howling too, but this is what I mean. It's this perfect blend of kind of tongue-in-cheek comedy and awesome creature and practical effects. And it just has this insane, like the fact that they put so much subtext into this, I love, right? Like the idea that this broken down housewife still uses her husband's inventions, even though none of them work. I love that. Like that's such a nice touch to add to the movie, right? She's still trying to answer the phone with his stupid thing when he's not there. That's another, I don't know if you saw this. That's another thing that this movie definitely says. In the background of him at that convention, they have the time machine from the movie, and they cut back to him, and they're just like touching the floor where it's like smoking and it's gone. So time travel also exists in this Gremlin hellscape universe. But she's still using his inventions. I love that, right? Like when they break down the Futterman's house, right? Is he's like, goddamn foreign, whatever. He's just got a Nixon poster on the wall, right? Like he still believes in the Nixon version of the world. There's a lot of subtext, right? Mrs. Deagle, who wants to throw everyone out of their house and crush she just wants money to spend on the creepiest cat-infested hoarder house of all time.
Good
right?
Lord.
Like, there's so much extra shit happening here, right? Yuppie Judge Reinhold. Like, those extras make it better. Because that's the thing. After Gremlins 2, there was a lot of Gremlins-type small creature movies that were popping up all the time. And I would say, like, everyone has probably heard of, like, Critters. Critters was, like, actually a really awesome one. But there's a lot of not really awesome ones. But none of them had this, right? That extra layer of, this does feel like a real town with real fucking problems. And it's messy and dirty. Very much like the Gremlins, man. I don't know. There's another thing I do want to bring up with you, though. I love the way this movie has so many other great movies in it, right? We talk, movies watching movies, right? We do that sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
So we have the Snow White. We have It's a Wonderful Life, so they're fucking steering into this, like, broken down Pottersville shit.
Right.
Bedford Falls, Potterville. There was a weird one that made me ponder for a second when they showed Body Snatchers, right?
Oh, yeah.
So Alien, I believe, in origin. But that was like a fear of communism movie, right?
Yes.
That version
was
fear of communists. They're here. They're coming for you. Your wife, your daughter will be next.
Yeah.
When they cut to the bar, that felt very Body Snatchers to me, right? Where all of a sudden now we have like Jazz Gremlin. We have Flasher Gremlin. We have Ski Mask Robber Gremlin, right? Poker Gremlin, right? These are weird fucking things that they stop attacking humans and causing mayhem to drink booze and smoke. I mean, honestly, I saw the Gremlins at the bar. I'm like, that looked like me in Florida. Just like 5 cigarettes in my mouth and just housing beers. That looked very familiar. I related. But why are they stopping to do that, right? There's something extra. And I was like, is this saying that we're the fucking Gremlins? Right?
I mean,
these
there
Gremlins
is a
are
level
us
of assimilation.
Yeah, I don't know.
I would say it's like, I would say there's a level of assimilation, but I don't see the difference. Like, we also show up and ruin places. And I mean, how many times have we been in bars and we're like, man, those people should be kicked out. They're terrible. Like, it's.
Or how many times have people said that about me?
Like,
a shockingly low amount of being removed from a bar.
It is this sort of cracked mirror in a way.
Yeah.
When you think about it.
I thought it's one of those scenes that's become so iconic. Mm-hmm. But I think it's funny because I'm assuming when this was put in the movie, there was not a deep underthought of what does this mean for the genetic weapon that is the Gremlins. Maybe there was. And I know people always say that about us, like, you guys fucking waste so much time trying to come up with theories about shit that doesn't matter. Fine. This felt, and I would say normally I agree with you, the fact that they inserted body snatchers into Gremlins.
Yes.
Because that is a movie about stealing identity.
Yes.
And when you see them actually stealing human form, I think there's a connection there with body snatchers, man.
I agree. I think, look, body snatch, like any other movie, and I would say who gives a shit. Like, you could say that the reason that body snatchers is in there is because, I don't know, Joe Dante was about to start directing the Twilight Zone movie or some shit. Like, it doesn't matter. Like,
yeah, maybe he just really liked it, but, you know.
Like, he really liked Vic Morrow. Like, who knows? But, like, to me, like, putting a movie like Body Snatchers, any iteration of it, but particularly the Don Siegel version, which is, like, in my opinion, the best one, it's about paranoia. That's the movie. The movie is, like, Body Snatchers is about the paranoia of communism seeping into American life. When we see and we cut to when we're at the bar with the Gremlins, this isn't paranoia of, you know, communism seeping into American life. This is the assimilation of Americanism. This is exactly what it is it's this cracked mirror that we're being held to this standard of, like, this is who we are.
Yeah.
Like, we are just as bad, if not worse, than these creatures.
That's what I think of, right? Yeah, we're not worried about communism. We're worried about the melting pot. We're worried about changing technology.
Absolutely.
We're worried about and a lot of it too is I think we're just worried about ultra violence and debauchery, right?
100%.
Especially as aimed by children, right? Which is really ironic thinking of the movie. But even Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, I was like, so Billy's the fucking flitting around Snow White, and then just has these 7 little monsters with her. And now they're like, we own this fucking fool. Like, we're going to go in on this. Hi ho, hi ho. The Gremlins are eating that shit up. They're taking Billy to the fucking mine, right? The deep mine of sadness and misery he's exposed on this town. You know, the chickens are the poison apple. It's all there. It's all there. That's all I'm saying. It's all there. No, I don't know. I think this movie has... What you remember about it is, I mean, this is a movie that the creature design is one of those just lightning in a bottle things where it's so perfect. The first time you see the green gremlins, right? The first time you see Gizmo. The first time you see the hands coming out of the cocoon. And it just keeps going and going and getting better and better. And the way they move and interact is awesome. And all that is great. And there's a movie with not super memorable characters, I would say, but the world and the rough edges of the world are so memorable and fun to bask in. That I think it just stands head and shoulders over a lot of movies that tried to pull this same trick.
I mean, it's unabashedly and perfectly itself. And I think, like, that's, like, the most important thing is the movie is original. Like, I think that's, like, what it is. Like, it takes from all these great pieces of art, and that's really all you can ever ask from movies is whatever came before it, can it be as good and add something new? And that's exactly what Gremlins does. And I'm honestly, I know I'm glad I waited till 35 to watch it. It's so much more enjoyable as an adult.
I honestly am stoked that you got to check this off. I love Gremlins 2 also. A lot of people shit on that. I think Gremlins 2 is fucking a blast, man. But it's just one of those kind of, like, foundational flicks for me. And yeah, like, when we were watching it for this, I showed it to my kids and they still fucking love it, man. And my kids are, like, YouTube watchers and all that, but, like, this movie just still fucking works on a base level across any demographic, I would feel. It's just great. There is one other thing, too, the movie feels real, is that at the end of this, the fucking irresponsible white family is just going to get off scot-free.
Just totally fine.
I mean, just think of the casualties. How many people, if you had to guess, died this night? If it's under 20, I'd be shocked.
It's got to be at least 20.
Let's say, I would say like 20 to 50, right? Ed Gein killed 3 people. And almost every famous movie monster we had from like Psycho on had like some Ed Gein in him. He killed 3
You're reading that Ed Gein comic book, aren't you?
I did read it, and it's great.
I'm in the middle of it right now. It's so good.
It's fucking great.
It's so
But that's what
good.
I mean. He pretty much like maybe killed his brother and like a couple other old ladies who were already old. This person unleashed fucking little green Ed Geins across an entire city. He brought an entire city and all of what little beleaguered industries it had to its knees. Crippled an entire town. And he's just like, in the part 2, he's just got like a cushy like cartooning job in New York. And it's like, what the fuck? What the
Get out of it scot-free. Good for him.
That's what
Lived
happens.
his best life.
Maybe fucking Gizmo's not the only fucking devil in this movie, Billy.
Ooh.
Billy. Yeah, you little sack of shit. All you peltzers. Anywho, I am fucking glad that Gremlins was chosen for this, man. What an honor to talk Gremlins.
This was great.
What a great movie to have for the Christmas movie of just what has been a great year for the show, man. We're very thankful for everything that came this year. Super thankful for Gremlins. Super thank you for all of our patrons. If you want to join us and get in on this movie selecting fun, talk some shit with us about movies, man. Film Alchemist, that is patreon.com/Film Alchemist pod. Give us some of those dollars, man. We won't give you Mogwais. We'll give you good stuff instead. The YouTube
stuff.
channel, Film Alchemist. The email, filmalchemistpod@gmail.com. We're on all the socials you're on. Go over and tell us how much you like our wild theories, our overblown theories. More than anything, guys, thank you for a wonderful fucking year. We guys hope that your year was okay, man. I know it was a rough one for a lot of us. I hope right now you're listening to this surrounded by loved ones and family. You're thankful for the year you had.
Clearly trying to ignore it.
Yeah, which you, like Billy's dad, are desperately trying to not spend time with. I hope that everyone out there is having happy holidays, man. Merry Christmas to everyone who listens.
Have a wonderful holiday, everyone. I hope you guys...
Yeah, from our families to yours, man. I hope it's just a great one. For the Film Alchemist, I'm Josh Griffey.
I'm Alex Dandino.